Hello, my name is Andrew Miller. I am the current 9th grade English, Social Studies, or Humanities teacher. I will be doing the same thing next year, as well as journalism. We'll be adding that course, which will be a lot of fun for me. I've been in the Federal Way School District. This will be my 5th year. I was at Federal Way High School for 3 years, traditional model. And it was a good gig. I was teaching AP English Language and Composition. I was teaching the high-level courses. I was teaching some of the struggling readers. You know, I had a great gig. I really was in a good place in my life where I thought, you know, I can cruise here. I loved the staff members. I loved the diverse students. And there was really no need for me to move, in a sense, for a career. And then I saw this posting. And I was really intrigued by it, what it was talking about, the technology integration, which is something I did not have at my school. There was no money. The interdisciplinary nature of it, the student-centered learning. One of the biggest things, and I talk about this often, is in a traditional school, a lot of people talk about, well, you can have student-centered learning. No, you cannot. You cannot. Okay? You can have student-centered activities, but you cannot have student-centered learning. And that was the biggest thing that drew me to TAF Academy. And also one of the biggest challenges, moving from the traditional model of, you know, doing cool activities where the students could work together and do that student collaboration piece, but moving to a model where they're taking pure ownership of the learning, where they get to determine ultimately, how am I going to be assessed? What should I be assessed on? What do I want to learn about? That for me was a challenge, you know, moving from that traditional, but also a joy, because it's something that in my master's program, you know, a lot of the master's program are all about that, students constructing the knowledge, and you get all charged up, and you're like, oh, that sounds wonderful, I want to be a part of that, and then you go into the traditional model, and your spirits just go away, because you can't do it the way you are told to do it or that you want to do it. So being in the district, I was obviously familiar with backwards design. I was familiar with standards-based lessons. I had mastered that stuff pretty much. And so the transition from that perspective was pretty easy. I knew how to create effective lessons. I knew how to create effective units. But again, in project-based learning, it has a lot of that, but it's also, again, about students really taking ownership. So if we're doing a project, they're working in teams, they're collaborating, and as a teacher, it's a hands-off approach in many ways. You're there as a guide, you're there as a mentor, you're there as a coach, but ultimately, you have to find out, okay, when do I let them figure this out? When do I let them problem solve? When do I take a step back and just kind of observe and then maybe jump in and say, you know, I'm noticing these things. Here's some suggestions on how you might approach this problem. And then you let them loose again. Or you bring them back for a lesson. You go, guys, I'm noticing that we're all having trouble with this content area. We're all having trouble with this writing skill. Let's work on that together. For me, I just think it's so authentic because it's student-driven. You look at the kids and you go, you know what? I'm noticing this about my students. And they determine what I teach to them. It's not about, you know, I want to teach this today, which a lot of teachers do. It's about what they need. And so as a teacher, that really spoke to me, and I feel like every time I get up there and teach, after I've looked at the kids, I'm doing something that's actually useful. The other thing I really enjoyed about the curriculum in project-based learning was the authenticity of it. Again, I think I'm glad that the students hit on that it's not simply doing the work for the work's sake, because that's the simple argument, right? That's the simple argument. Well, you got to know, you got to be a good writer. When you get older, you got to be able to read. Okay, well that's fine, and we know that, but how can we make our assessments real to them? How, instead of, you know, creating a simple summary of something, can't they go out there and create a new product for a company? Can't they pitch something to somebody? That's so much more authentic to me and is real for the students, and I think that they realize that. And again, that challenge is knowing when to let the students struggle by themselves, and then also when you need to come in. I think that's a style. That's a real, project-based learning is definitely a style that you have to learn as a teacher. So coming in, again, I have those familiar pieces of proper instruction, but really learning that style was a challenge for me. Again, I was so excited about the technology. I'll be honest, I'm a big technology geek, okay? I've got my iPhone right here. I love it. It's my only friend, okay? So it's right here. and Laura will attest to that. You know, she sees me with it. Okay, I love my laptops. I love my computer games. So being a big geek this was like a gold mine, because not only could I just, you know, have fun with it, but I could create really cool assessments where they're creating websites, they're creating podcasts, they're doing YouTube videos. You can actually address that idea of multiple intelligences that we talk so much about in the education world. Well, let's actually lift that up. We can lift that up here in this curriculum. I think that probably the biggest challenge is something that Deb hit on, is how we have this huge interdisciplinary idea, but again, being able to easily make that transparent in the grade book, as well as educating the community and the parents and guardians about what that means, because it's not cattle prod assessment. That's the common misconception is, you know what I mean, 1 grade every day, turn in that sheet, here's 10 points. Okay, that's the typical model. Okay, we don't do that here. There are less grades, right? Because we're not assessing and putting everything in the book. We're assessing on the major products that they're producing. So I think, and as a parent, I can totally see the confusion. It's like, wait, why didn't you grade their homework? Well, that was practice. But shouldn't they get credit? No, that's practice for the real assessment coming up. And I think that teaching that to the community is, again, going to be one of our big challenges moving forward in educating the community. And I would say the last thing, of course, that's going to be a big challenge is just doing the work. I mean, we're here because we love to do it, but collaborating, getting the time to collaborate with teachers, building the curriculum, such as the scope and sequence, which we have none of, you know, is going to be a big challenge. But again, it's also the joy for me as a teacher, because I get to build that, and it feels like I'm doing a good thing every day. So thank you.